Hi, this is Kelly from Crafty Kelly's at www.craftykelly.co.uk. Today I'm bringing you a project from the Altenew collection. So this is the Strength Bouquet stamp set. The reason I'm doing this is I have been luckily accepted onto the Altenew education program. So this is one of my projects. So this will be my layering 101. So in the future I shall be bringing you some more projects, so check out my blog to see what's coming up, because not all of them will be filmed, but some of them will. So today I just thought I would share my project that I'm doing for the first part of my course. So I really am enjoying using Altenew stamps, really lovely layering system. And really easy to line up step-by-step guide. So we'll go through that. I'm going to be using some Altenew inks. I'm also going to bring in Stampin' Up Pacific Point, just because I wanted 3 shades of blue for this. I've made some masks using masking sheets. I've also, because I've used the stamp set before, had them already done in sticky notes, but I wanted to use my masking sheets. So I've just purchased my masking sheets, and they are from Rare Earth masking sheets, and you get 30 sheets of low tack adhesive sheets. And I've looked around, and actually I think that's the best buy. So you get 30 sheets for around £17.99. So that was a really good buy, because 30 sheets is going to last me a long time. Whereas some of the other companies was you paid something like £2 for 2 sheets. So I think I've got a real good bargain there. So we're going to start. And we're going to be doing a little bit of snipping. This set does come with dies, but I am choosing to cut them out. Do a little snippy. The nice thing about Altenew is, if you are new to them, they do have a layering guide on the back of their stamp packaging. So don't ever chuck away the packaging, because it's really, really useful. So we are going to be making up this flower here to start with. With the layering system, always start with the lightest colour and then work your way up to the darkest. I have prepped my stamps with a rubber, just to get off any shininess. You can also do that by inking them up a couple of times and stamping them onto some scrap paper. I think I'm shaking the camera, sorry, I need to get a better table. There we go. So we're going to centralise our kind of focal point of flowers down this line, and I'll show you why as we go. So I'm going to pop my first image there. And I'm going to take another one of these images. I'm just going to rotate it and have it slightly further down. I don't want it all exactly the same. I don't want it too uniformed, but we're going to use both flowers and some leaves to kind of tie it all in. Now I am slightly coming off my paper, but that is fine, because I kind of want that. So we're going to now move on to the next layer, and you have reference points. So the reference point, I don't have a pencil because I don't like putting pencil onto my work, but it does help for lining up. So on the guide it shows you this line here to then line up your next stamp. So I shall and get the next one. So a good tip is always, before you start inking up, line up your stamp so you've got kind of a rough guide of where you need to place it. So I'm kind of hanging just over, my camera's is quite high, so I'm kind of looking over my camera. So when you're not doing it with a camera, it'll be easier to line up. But you can see where the lines kind of here match up and this V in here, and they're really good reference points. So we're going to then, because I've got an idea of where it's going, go for the next blue down. So I'm just going from the lightest to the darkest. I'm going to use this V, and this V is my line-up points. When you're happy, squidge down. What's nice about these particular stamps is they can be quite forgiving if you slightly misstamp, because of the nature of the image. Because it's not like a perfect flower, it's more kind of watercolour imagery. Sometimes that can actually add to the feel of the piece. There we go. And then I'm going to continue to do this for each layer. So I'll take my stamp, I'll place it on top so I've got a good idea of where it should be sitting, so I can get a really good image. And I'm going to line up using these edges here, and this V up here I feel for this particular one is a really good kind of indicator. So you can really see how that layering system works and creates such a beautiful piece. So we're going to now bring in my little masks and mask off so we can add some lovely leaves. Now I've cut my masking sheet slightly smaller, and the reason being because I don't want a gap between where the masking sheet meets the where the flower meets the leaf. Because if you cut because these stamps have dies which are fantastic, but if I used a die it would leave a small border. I suppose I could chop that off, but I just hand snip these. Oh, and I'm managing to get blue ink everywhere, but thankfully this is going to be snipped off and that I can hide. Thankfully I did have two. I need one for there. So I've masked off my areas. And with these leaves, there isn't like a layering system for the leaves. Or it doesn't appear there is, and there isn't anything on the sheet. So I'm going to take some of the solid leaf choices. So yeah, I think those two will do. And I'm going to, using the two little greens in the pack that I got. So this is just green. Well, that's a nice green. I'm very used to using Stampin' Up colours, so it's I've lived my life in Stampin' Up colours for some time now, so using other things is quite nice. So now I'm just going to bring my leaves in, and I'm going to tuck them where I can, where I feel is a kind of an appropriate point. And I think I'll do the middle one in the different green. These two outer ones are going to have matching kind of leaves. So if you do get any points like this, what I tend to do, so I'll take a blender pen, and this one's from Stampin' Up, but I think they do, you can get them from other companies. So these little points here, I just pick up a bit of the ink and I just dab it in, and then I can keep layering it if it's not quite dark enough, but then it makes that join less obvious. So then it kind of fades in. Okay, so now I'm all snipped out. That's lovely. I'm just going to take a kind of scrap piece of card, which I've just cut a sliver down so I can mount this over the top. Because I've got these smudges here, I might do a bit of a speckled thing, but I want to match my cardstock, so I'm just going to place some of my colour down onto my this is a craft mat, and then I'm just going to pick it up with my rare earth dusting brushes. I prefer to use dusting brushes. There's so many different things you can use now. You've got the Tim Holtz or Ranger foam pads, you've got daubers, you can just use a sponge if you want to, so there's a lot of choice out there. But my favourite are these rare earth dusting brushes. Another good thing to use if you want to get like a nice good even coverage is actually the Stampin' Up foam rollers are fantastic for kind of adding colour to a large area. So this is kind of how it's gonna look, but we just need to do our sentiment. This is going to be flat, this I shall raise up on some dimension. So I'm just going to leave that to one side just to let the ink soak in and set. I've got some of these lovely mini sets and I'm going to use the Big Wishes. So I am going to use a stamping tool just in case I don't get as nice and clear of an image as I would like. So this is the Rare Earth stamping tool. I'm just going to pop my cardstock in. And using that same sticky note, I'm just going to hold it in place. And then I can just position that. Pick up. Because it's quite tacky. It just moved the paper, so maybe I need a bit more stick. But what I've tried to do is I've tried to line up my cardstock so it is on the grid line just at this corner, so hopefully it will work. Actually, I might just move over a smidge because I'm trying to just cover up a little bit of that blur that I got. Right. Really sorry about the wobbling today. It's not normally this big. This bad. I think I've recently just moved my table because we had people around for dinner last night, and I think I've loosened the legs. Right. I think I've got good coverage. This particular stamp does have like scripty lines that obviously have missing bits, so it's not going to have like a perfect crisp image. Oh, that is perfect. I am happy with that, although, but this is where it goes Pete Tong. Just want to make my big a little bit. Yeah, that'll do. Lovely. So I'm going to bring all my elements in now. We are going to use some foam pads to erase up this bit. I know over in the States a lot of people like to use the foam, like the craft foam, which I've not used that yet, but it does look pretty good. So I just use quite a lot of foam dots. There we go, that's plenty. And then I'm just going to adhere this smooth and straight on with my glue pen. I do love a tape runner. These are the Create and Craft ones. They are pretty good, and when they've got them on offer, they're even better. So this is going to line up just with a smidge of white showing. Just want that little touch. And I'm just going to line this up. And pop that. So I've got a couple of blue splodges, which we're going to cover up. But I'm really happy with how this is at the moment. I personally like to work in threes. I know some people work in like a triangle pattern with threes, but I like to work in threes. I suppose similarly in a triangular pattern, but I like an odd number. Okay, to add a little bit of sparkle, I'm going to bring in a bit of Winker Stella, and I'm just going to kind of paint that in the centres. Okay, so I've just added a bit of Winker Stella into the big and into the centre of the flowers, just to give it a little bit of a nice tone. It was really nice to be able to tie in these colours together, and oh yeah, I've really enjoyed using the Altenew stamps. So I hope you've enjoyed doing this project with me today, and check out the next one coming up soon. So this has been Kelly from Crafty Kelly's at www.craftykelly.co.uk. Bye now.